Yeah, my love. And it's all about the kid. Yeah. Let's start the game over. Back to the way things were. It's all about the kids. So put your family first. Let's start the game over.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Put Your Family First podcast. 4-time award-winning Podsters. And we bring the topics and the conversations that are hard for people to swallow. Well, I guess it shouldn't be hard for some people to swallow. You got to actually care to swallow it, you know what I mean? Today is Monday, March the 10th, right? Or the 11th? The 10th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we're 10 days into March, and I'm already thinking about bills for April 1st.
One day we're going to have to think about it.
One day we're going to have to think
Good
about
Lord,
that.
Blessings going to come down so heavy.
Right.
We got room enough to contain it.
Right. We, Lions, Tigers, and Red Wings and Pistons, they're all involved, and there's a lot going on right now. But today we are going to talk about Emmy's Respect Day and respect, the importance of respect, because it's one of the pillars of character that we teach in our mentoring program. And we're bringing Emmy Respect Day to you because it changes environments, and right now our environment needs changing. The fear that's out there, the people that's out there, that's going back and forth. We just want to bring this to the community, and we're using everything. We pulled out all the stops from apparel. If you buy one Respect Day, you give one Respect Day. A bunch of them are being delivered today. I was checking out the people that purchased. And the other thing is the fact that Respect Day changes school environments, how the young men perceive the young women. It is really a powerful thing. We've helped schools have their highest male population. Can you believe that this is in the city of Detroit and we don't get that type of love like that? Like, this is what we do has been amazing work, especially from the perspective of what we have had to do it with. This Respect Day is no different. And so been making a gang of calls across Michigan, getting people involved. We got a couple of schools jumped in and got involved. And so I really think that respect is a way to go, but I think that we don't understand what respect really is. I think a lot of times, we look at respect in all the negative or difficult ways of understanding, but respect is really an important piece. So before I get into it, Dr. Heather, how are you?
I am here and present.
Brother Dave?
Well, president of counterfolk.
I know that's right.
Right.
Remember those days?
Right. And so, again, we want to get into this because Dave, I'm going to come at you first, right? But before I do it, I just really want you to understand that this is what is missing in education, in the community, in the barbershops. I've seen people getting shot in barbershops over a haircut, right? Of course, if the haircut ain't right, we understand, we can work through it. But when you can't emotionally have it, and then you got, everybody wants to be tough, we gotta cut that. We really got to cut the fake bravado that's taking lives, right? Just having respect for something. I'll give you an incident. There was an incident in the barbershop a few years ago that involved me. I was cracking jokes, and the guy, I didn't know him, but we always crack jokes or whatever. So the guy gets up and he says, you don't know me, I don't know you, man. and then he seemed like he wanted to get into a riff. Me, when I'm wrong, I know how to apologize, right? Because where I come from, if I'm wrong, I know how to apologize. So, he thought he was intimidating, and, I apologized or whatever. And, I said, "You're right, brother, I was wrong. I don't know you. Right? Please forgive me. I apologize for that." Right? So then he started, want to talk tough or whatever and want to take it on a little further. And so my man Tom was standing there and whatever, and everybody in the barbershop is ready to make a move, right? The whole barbershop. And I was like, "No, I understand, brother," right? So because there was no pushback on my end, it didn't go no further. Now, where I come from, if I was right and you was wrong, we'd have tore the whole barbershop up, which I didn't have no problem with that, right? Mm-hmm. It's when I'm wrong, how do I apologize? Because that was disrespectful to someone I didn't know. Right? And so it just happened to offend him because he knew everybody else but me. Mm-hmm. Right? And so, I've seen where that has escalated beyond. And so I really want to get into this. And so, Dave, for you, what does it look like? How huge, while you were in the service, was respect, and what does that look like from a service perspective?
Well, from a service perspective, basically we're saying you have value. You're my battle. You're the person that's got my back. You got my 3-6. And because I value you as a person, not just as a soldier, and I value what we stand for, because you have to stand for something, what we stand for, then I'm going to give you the utmost respect. Now, in the military, there's ranks, and you have to respect those ranks. Anytime you disrespect a rank, you're being insubordinate. Now, all that can get into some legalities and all that hoopla, but when you respect another individual because they're willing to make a sacrifice of themselves, and usually in respect, I'm sacrificing, like what you just displayed right there, was I'm sacrificing my ego, my pride, to let you know that you have value. I was out of order. That also lines up with emotional intelligence because you have self-awareness. You know who you are. So you don't have anything to prove, and you valued, back to the military, you value that individual so much so that you would turn around and apologize because you're correct. Even though I may have assumed that you walk in an environment like the barbershop, the jokes are on. But because you were offended, I value you as another valuable human being to respect your stance. So it's the same in the military.
Which is important. Because in the military, though, it's also a respect of order.
Right. Well, that's what I meant by the ranks.
Yeah, by the ranks. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this is the same thing where, society-wise, we'll say things like, "Who you think you are? You ain't no better than me." Yeah. Right? And we'll have that conversation in terms of emotions. Right? Mm-hmm. Back when we were hanging in the clubs, dude got shot over a donut. Dude got shot for stepping on some shoes. Mm-hmm. Like, our mindset around respect is I think it's in line with violence. I think when I feel disrespected, right, we've seen several people kill over a minute thing. Mm-hmm. We've seen people be disrespectful to their own children. For some strange reason, it empowers, mainly broken parents. I have not seen too many men, right? But I've seen a lot of women in the grocery store, go hard at their sons, mm-hmm. right, and their children, mm-hmm. right? I've seen men in that regard speak up. Hey, you don't have to talk to them now. We think that bobbing your head, yelling and screaming and telling you who you talking to is respect. Like, we really believe that is a form of respect, and I think that's where the disconnect is. And so, Heather, the power of respect, what was that like in your home?
Respect in our home had a lot to do with order. You know, the eldest person in the family amongst the siblings had the authority. And when you didn't follow that chain of authority in our household, it was consequences. Mm-hmm. And so my dad, probably because my dad was in the Navy too, because he used to give us the con. So the oldest person that was on deck had the con. And so, he called it the deck and the con. And so that meant that whatever they said you had to do. And we had to do some crazy things under the abuse of authority. Yeah. Yeah. So we had to do some crazy things under that. But I mean, that was really important. That was not necessarily the respect for the sibling, because you may not have agreed and smacked them later, but it was the respect for my dad, because that's the law that he laid down. So it was out of respect for my dad. It really wasn't about the oldest and their authority. That's how he positioned it. But it really was about his authority and who he decided was going to be in charge and who was going to do what. So that was respect on that level was really important in our house. My mom, you couldn't get away with, loud talking, sassing, or, smart talking my mother. She wasn't going for that, first of all. And, my dad certainly wasn't going for it. So you learned more about authority and kind of what the structure of authority meant in terms of respect. Same thing with, teachers, neighbors, elders. That was mandatory. That was a no-brainer. You know how you conduct yourself. You're not, getting smart with them. You're not getting what was referred to as being disrespectful, which was being rude, not listening to what they had said, or respecting. So I don't want to use the word respect, but having value for what's being told to you by an elder. That was considered disrespectful in our household.
So, since we have to use Webster during Scrabble, right? We can't use no other dictionary. We have to use Webster, right? This is how they try to contain me from winning, Dave. Right?
Or making up words, or using slang, or foreign languages, or symbolism.
Hebrew. That's Hebrew, Greek.
Right.
That's why y'all don't get it.
That's right. Yeah, he'll pull every string.
Oh, I'm pulling. But I'll be right. I'll be right in the.
Right.
It's in the Webster.
Right.
Right. And so the Webster dictionary says, a feeling of deep admiration for someone or something elicited by their abilities, qualities, or achievements. The director had a lot of respect for Douglas as an actor. Number 2, due regard for feelings, wishes, rights, or traditions of others. Right? And so respect is such a thing, right? Authority. How do you and it plays out too also. When I called Dr. Jeff, I was talking about me and the honorary, and then he turned around and tell me that Nelson Mandela had 50. Okay.
50.
The honorary
doctorates.
50 honorary doctorates. Okay.
Right? He had 50. Right? Mm-hmm. So do I walk into Nelson Mandela's office going, man, you ain't no different than me? Right? When we understand
yeah, that would be funny.
Yeah, that would be hilarious.
That would be out of order. That's what it would be.
Well, it will most definitely be disrespectful.
Right.
And I think that's what has happened even in education, right? That a multitude of teachers bring themselves too far down to try to be in, and then the students walk in the door thinking they're too adult because of the poor training at home, right? And
I want to share an insight or another perspective on that. So, regardless of your age, regardless of your status, everybody is due respect.
Okay.
And when I think of that, I think of it as a sense of importance and value.
Okay.
And that, I think, is standard across the board. I think you build that level of admiration based on how you use that platform and what you put on top of it.
Okay.
So as a teacher, it used to be that a teacher automatically had this sense of importance and value.
Okay.
And I think what's happened over time is that the role of the teacher has shifted a bit. The role of a teacher has become more of I wanted to say disciplinarian, but there's a word I'm trying to come up with, but it seems like it has shifted, and it has been taken down from the higher regard. And some of that has to do with how the culture that's created in the classroom, the culture that's created in the school, and the culture that's been created in the community. That it's had a severe impact on those positions that at a point in time had a higher regard and value versus what they have now. I mean, and that shows up on different levels. It shows up on how they respond to students, how they respond to parents, because of the series of experiences that they have. You start to say the majority of people are X, Y, Z. And as they're saying the majority of people are X, Y, Z and become more engaging or defensive, you start putting people in a box for your own safety and protection. And because of that, the way that it's viewed on the other end, it's not that they're preserving their own safety and protection. It feels like you have sided yourself against me and not for me. And I think that perspective for young people has been elevated for a few reasons. One is because of how they see adults. And we have phenomenal teachers, but we also have some fanatical teachers, and because that sense of regard has been lost for some and compromised for others, young people tend to put them in a box, and they're more interested in they seem to be more interested in how you value and respect me, regardless of regardless of my behavior. You should respect me because I'm here as a student, because I showed up today.
Okay, so all that being said, when you size up the teacher and when you size up the student, back in the day, the household was the first place for you to learn and understand respect.
The first teacher.
It's the first place. Mm-hmm. So if I went to school and was telling a teacher, oh, we the same, there was somebody at the crib waiting who had the relationship with the teacher, was waiting for you to return home to have this conversation.
Meet up with respect. Let me introduce you to respect.
Yeah, let me introduce you, right? The other component that was taught at home was you were there to get the education.
Right.
You're not there for the laugh, the play, to be disrespectful, to find yourself in constantly people talking about we got to get you on medicine, right? The teachers don't know how to talk to you. The coaches doing all these like you weren't there for that, right?
The foolishness.
The foolishness, but the thing is just like with Respect Day, self-respect has to be taught first in the home. Right? This is why, just think about this, right? You sit in the class. There are some Asian kids in the class. Teacher never have a problem with the Asian kid. Why? Because the Asian kids have been taught respect. That's one of the first things they're taught, is to have respect. Asian kids are taught respect at every level before they even enter education. This is why their mind and they're able to focus and achieve what they're able to achieve, because they're not in all those other things, and usually they're not from broken environments. It's very highly unlikely you find an Asian kid broken from family, right? And if you do, they still surrounded by men, right? The men are really, right? Same for African, right? Same where the traditional value of self-respect and respect is literally taught at home. Who usually is supposed to teach respect? Who requires respect more than anybody? The father. Oh, y'all had to know I was going to bring it back to daddy. Right? He is the teacher of respect. But once he's not present, our children are handcrafted in emotion. And so education is having issues around respect, because they spend a considerable amount of days in public education dealing with kids who are either fighting on the phone, disrespect. And I'm telling you, I was at a school recently where somebody called their mom bro. Like the girl looked over and said, "Bro, you don't understand," and talking to the mom. Mm-hmm. So we don't understand why respect is such an important pillar to your character. Right? In China, the first thing they teach them is respect. Mm-hmm. Right? So in those countries, in that place, those kids are not even, they're out playing, exercising, getting acclimated. These are things that you've seen with your own eyes, right? Let's scroll over to some of these education facilities now, right? In the hallway, right? We got a lot of disrespect. A lot of disrespect for the teacher. Who you talking to? It's everywhere. Why? Because the person that's supposed to teach respect, and respect to be enforced by discipline, is the father. So we can debate that, because a lot of times people's emotions get in a place where they want to debate anything that is of a value of a man, right? We automatically get in that debate. But when we're talking about this one thing, respect, right now, this situation around respect, it literally is missing in homes, is in education facilities, schools, after school programs, coaching, little league football. The core piece missing from the success of the children is respect. Go ahead, anybody?
Well, a part of that area where it's now is compromised and respect is because the construct of structure has changed. And it changed probably in the last 30, 40 years, as we say, come as you are. Almost saying, act as you want to act, do what you want to do. Well, there's no structure in that. And I've watched a lot of organizations change their structure, even the military, because we had to appeal to the people. And as we appeal to the people want to say, I have value, whether I display value or not. I have value. Okay, that's fair enough. But we need that structure. If you go back to the period where you're talking about our parents, there still was a level of structure that had to be upheld. But in the next generation proceed to believe that you're violating their right as a human being by not letting them be free to do what they want to do. Well, freedom don't come free in any area. So when you find yourself in a position where you're trying to set up structure, but you think I'm violating your freedom to be a free will human being, then we lose order. And so over the course of time, we have lost that order in the family, in the workplace, in the church, all these places where you say, come as you are. Well, you talk about some of these Asian countries that I've lived in. Come as you are is preparing you to become. So they prepare you early on about structure, about value, about the roles you hold and what these roles represent. As you said, when you saw a teacher, there was an image you thought of a teacher. Now that image has been compromised because the teacher now goes into be a police officer in a room. And they're trying to do what? Bring structure. When we violated the area of structure in the home, in the community, I mean, now, again, structure not in the community. People don't have a problem letting the community go to trash. It used to be the term ghetto. Well, every environment is just about to start to look like ghettos because people don't have any value anymore. Because I should be able to, I want to throw trash out there, I can throw trash out there. I want to cuss you out, I can cuss you out. If I don't want to be bothered with you, I want to be bothered. So no structure, no respect. God set up structure right out the gate. You know, there would be God, there would be father, there would be mother, or husband and wife. He set those structures up. But as the course of time has kind of moved on, that structure has been broken down. And no house divided can ever stand. You have to have that structure to develop respect.
Yeah.
Agreed. When you mentioned that, I thought about actions of courtesy, consideration, and humility. When I think about respect, it is that this is the line in the sand. This is the number line, and either you can scale up on courtesy, you can scale up on consideration and humility. It's just when you scale down, like you get to the negative numbers. Now you're a negative courtesy, negative consideration, negative humility, and the things that drive you back and forth across that line. What's acceptable culture? And I think that drives you back and forth across that line. And you continue to add when you start to feel some sense of reward for it. If you're courteous to somebody and somebody else is courteous to you, you open the door for somebody and they say thank you. Or they hold the door open for somebody after you. Like I think people need to see that to multiply it. And they need to be connected to what the energy of that brings. The energy of what, not just courtesy, because, it seems that in some spaces, it just is a pet peeve of mine to, drive down the street and there's people throwing their garbage out the window. Right. The fast food bags or bottles. And it just, that for me kind of creates that sense of road rage. You have lost my respect. And so because you have now lost my respect, these things, it's like it has an excuse for these things to take place. So I have an excuse to throw rocks at your car. I have an excuse to run you off the road. I have an excuse to blow my horn and because I immediately, because of your lack of courtesy, it triggered a behavior for me that makes it acceptable now to treat you like the trash you threw out the window.
Which you can't really do.
Well,
because you have so much more self-respect.
That's self-control. That's not self-respect.
Once you put the word triggered there, of course.
But I'm saying it wells that feeling up in me. Where it's something you have to be punished for this. And I'm saying, but because I have a sense of self-control, I control that urge. I still feel it, but because I have something extra that says this is not the way to handle that. But I'm saying there's so many of us that when that trigger is reached, or when somebody cuts you off, it's different if you cut me off and you wave it off. I'm sorry about that. Right? It's a sense of courtesy. And okay, you were wrong, but you apologize. So, okay, I can go back over here. I'm not as triggered. Right? But, you just cut me off and just run in front of me and I'm slamming on I'm leaning on my horn. I might follow you and keep riding your bumper.
Come on back.
Whatever. I'm saying that because that's a real component of respect. We may not see that as respect, but it's an act of courtesy. It's an act of consideration. It's an act of humility. It's the humility that allows me that control, or to say maybe that person just didn't have a good day today, or give them the benefit of the doubt, which is for me my fourth point. That when we show respect toward another person, sometimes we just give them the benefit of the doubt, because that's what we would want somebody to do for us. Give me the benefit of the doubt. I'm just not being evil. I didn't see you coming up on the side of me, so that's why it looks like. Or I didn't turn on my turn signal, or you didn't turn on your turn signal. But that sense of give the person the benefit of the doubt, I think is another part of the respect. And I think, like you talked about your situation in the barbershop, you gave the person the benefit of the doubt. Now you know, and you felt the trigger. You said it. You felt the trigger. If it was a right or wrong issue, it could have gone a different way. But that was partly your self-control. It was partly your humility. Then to say, you know what, I'm sorry. I apologize. That's humility. And I think these are some elements that we have in fragments, and what's acceptable in these spaces, whatever this space might be, is part of the acceptable culture that we have to now continue to grow on this side, the positive side of the number line versus the negative. And I think what we see often is the negative response to that whole sense of boundaries. So, sure.
I'm with you, right? I'm just saying in terms of if we start building, right? If we start building the process, the first thing is respect, right? If you get into, because your parents, they want it, right? And they start teaching that immediately, what you can and cannot do. You shouldn't talk like this. That foundation to get into courtesy in those areas,
it's cultural.
It's not even just cultural.
It is culture.
Okay, I'm saying it's not just cultural, but I'm saying that those areas is such an important piece. The foundation of respect allows you to go into those other areas. I think it's the opposite. I think those pieces allow you to put respect in perspective. How? If you never taught respect, but you have courtesy.
Right.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Courtesy. You have to put those things are in place. One of the, if you look at parents,
the first thing your parents taught you,
they say
respect.
thank you, please. Like those are things those are the components that then, as those are built, then respect comes on top of that. It's not the foundation.
Nappy headed little girl, about 4 or 5 months, and you got to walking around the house. You bumped your head. We all did it. So you then became respectful to that end table because you didn't want to bump your head again. Your parents told you that. Your parents, you hit your parents, and your parent hit you. You don't hit me, right? Because we're teaching. So I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is that foundation has to be built on respect. It's going to save your life. The very respect that you are being taught early is going. I look at my brothers and sisters. I'm just watching, right? I look at my brothers and sisters, all of us, just from the respect area, thousands of friends. But it's because we respected people's differences. We all type of friends. We've had them, from the boogeyman to the bike thief to, right? And they had nothing but respect for us, because why? We gave respect. So self-respect was taught to us first.
I'm saying use a different word than respect. Replace that with another adjective.
We would have to cancel the show, Heather. The show is about respect. I'm just saying.
For the people who are watching who may not have the internal same barometer or definition that you're using as respect, I'm saying if you use maybe another term interchangeably, when you say that people had respect for you, had admiration because of certain things that certain members of your family may have done, maybe have a sense of value for how you made them feel. That's what I'm saying. So you're calling it respect across the board, but there are the things that make up what respect actually is, or what our expectation of respect actually is.
And that's where the problem comes in, because people have different meanings of the
absolutely.
term. And if you, as you said, you look at the noun, the adjective, as well as the verb, and you see the word means something totally different. So unless we have what you've been saying, and I was thinking about actually is cultural etiquette. Most of the times that you talked about was about, hey, if I wave my hand because I made a mistake, I'm showing you social etiquette that says, hey, I'm not going to do this, or I didn't mean to do that because I value you. Unfortunately, as you said, most people get a trigger because our self-seeking or our self-gratification always comes up first, the ego. Hey, you disrespected me, or you violated me, or you didn't value me. But then what we start to do is, because we develop and inform ourselves, as we're doing now, we inform ourselves there's a better way to do it. Well, Calvin pointed out self-control. That is a part of the fruit of the Spirit. The last one is self-control. But what brings about self-control? That history that you got, that value system that you got, the rearing that you got. Well, we can see very clearly that this new generation, we have kind of diluted all that. And so therefore they have a different construct of idea of what respect is. As you said, in the early days, if you stepped on a man's shoe, you was out of order. Well, that was silly. That has nothing to do with saying that you're insecure, because what a pair of shoes got to do with him disrespecting unless he just come and stump on your toe. But just because he bumped you doesn't mean he disrespects you. So we have to get some clarity on what this term means. As you said, some people look at it from a value, some look from a admiration. But again, clarity needs to be placed, and that's
Absolutely.
the issue I think we see now in our society. There's no clarity. So we see all these kids running around acting out because their meaning of respect, when they go in there to see a teacher, I know one teacher who was the Michigan, what they qualify, got the highest award in Michigan at one point. I can't think of the title. But anyway, they drug her down the hallway because she told him to take his hat off. You see, so value system, you disrespect, you tell me take my hat off. Well, in one period of history, when you walked in the room, we wouldn't be having our hats on. You know, you go to some
knew to take them off.
You take them off.
Why?
Yeah.
Because you were taught it.
You were taught that.
The second thing is, from her perspective to my perspective, it's the difference in cut and dry. When you talked about your father set the standard. When you begin to talk about it, you brought in these other things. That's from a feminine perspective. From a male's perspective, from a man's perspective, it is cut and dry. Respect yourself. Son, you got to respect yourself. This is what self-respect for yourself look like. You got to make sure this when you walk into class, you got to do this when you do understand. All the science is coming back to the person that is supposed to teach the children respect is the father. And so if we, in this environment, the reason why you have that emotional training to respond that way, it comes from the absence of that father. It's so, when we get into everything that is wrong, right? And we're just talking about from respect. When a father teaches a son respect, it's going to save your life. Son, you really can't do that. Daughter, listen, baby, you can't do that. I remember the situation with my own daughter. Baby, you can't conduct yourself like that. That's the wisdom of a father. Teaching, baby, if you're going to be out here, you got to protect yourself. You can't be out here sleeping with everybody. That's the protection of a father. You want to be a wife. It takes a second for you to become a wife, but if you're going to be out here, you can't be out here like that. It might seem cool to you because you got a little masculine energy, but you really can't be out here like that. Because, don't no man want a rotten tomato. And if the tomato already been in pizza sauce, you can't put it back together.
Well, all righty then.
Acceptable culture.
If that tomato been smashed, beat up, and already put on, you can't put it back together. This ain't, you know what I mean? This ain't the Blob, you know what I mean? You know, where one piece gets to formulate and get everything.
Okay.
But I'm sharing.
Yeah, I had a bad thought on that. So let me contain that one. Put that pepperoni on the piece. So everything gets sliced.
Right. But it's just really for us to understand why respect. And so back to getting to our Respect Day. Reason why we Respect Day was so important, it was in our mentoring program. And we asked our young men to go to the schools with a sheet to get their schools involved with Respect Day. And our young men would have been our little future leaders, were going to be the catalysts, the leaders that would bring Respect Day to the school, and they would be cited for their leadership. Well, just like today, when a young man has something to say, they took the sheet in and they didn't respond. So we had them do it again and they didn't respond. And so we decided to do Respect Day. Well, 2016 rolled around and here we are receiving an award for Calvin T. Mann for 30 years of work. And in that process, I left it as ME National Respect Day because we saw immediate action. Where the young men were holding the doors for the young ladies, we saw immediate calmness in the school from Respect Day. We saw
Can I just
focus.
let me just add something to what you're sharing. One of the reasons that chain reaction happened in that school culture is because, like Dave said, they defined respect and got on one accord about the things that respect represented for them. And that's what they were communicating to each other, and that was a huge part of the change in the school culture.
Well, yeah, because
they defined it, though.
Right, but we taught them.
The students.
Yeah, we was at DSA the first time, right?
The students.
We went in and pointed out to them what the real definition of respect was. That woke them up. They all saw it in their phones. You should have seen if it was like deer in the headlights. They all responded because they were like, oh, they didn't have that definition.
That's right.
Right? And so then that took it, and then once they put Respect Day together, it shifted the entire environment.
Because they bought into the shared definitions of what respect was.
Yeah.
Well, let me inject that from a military standpoint. But one of the things that I love about the military was the fact that we can get people from all over the world. And we can get the genders, we can get the race, we can get all that, right? And you bring them together. Well, they come with their own philosophy, their own rearing, their own idea about life and respect and all those things. But over the course of those weeks that they're in basic training, they're getting on one accord, because now the page you on way in the back of the book, you're on the same page in the front of the book now, because we set a structure, we set a standard, we set principles that says this is how we do business to create an image. What is the image? To be a soldier. So by doing that, now those people that had all those different ideals and views and perspectives, on the day of graduation, they're on the same page. Because they had clarity. Then this is what a soldier looks like. He don't come in rag bag. He don't come in with his beard all over the place. He got these standards. He got these set of structured standards that they have to live by. So when those people of higher ranking officials standing up there, and maybe the president, when they come down that parade field, they all on point. Now, some people would say that's control, that's mind manipulation, but we're all being manipulated for. What is the outcome you're looking for? That's why the military United States military forces is one of the most recognized forces in the world, because we have a high standard that requires you to be respectful.
Nah.
That go right. Okay. Well, all righty.
Nah. So Respect Day. So Respect Day then takes on this whole persona. I get a call at the end of the first Respect Day, and she was like, Beverly Green was like, Calvin, man, you should see our school right now. Like, you should see what I'm looking at right now. I'm just blown away what this has done to our environment. I get a call a week later. It's still going. Right? We talk. I do a follow-up a month later. It's still happening. There's no fighting. There's no back and forth there. And everyone is doing what they need to do. And in fact, in some cases, enrollment increased after Respect Day. Kids begin to come to school even more after Respect Day because the environment had changed. Mm-hmm. And so it made it a place that was conducive for them to learn and work together. One of the most important things that's missing in education right now is the ability for kids, right, who come from a number of different areas or educational pieces or whatever you want to call. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest things is how the individualized approach has become acceptable. Mm-hmm. Where all the pressure is on the individual, and then we have kids that get out of school and play fight. Like they play fight for something to do because they've been in school. There's no conditioning, there's no recess, there's only the kids get out of school and they play fight. Play fight goes into real fight. Real fight leads into violence. Respect. I don't respect myself enough, so why do I respect you? Respect falls into why I can shoot another man for nothing, but we'll yell and scream racism. Right? But I look across and see someone that looks like me and don't value. I don't respect life. These things are important. So Respect Day, literally right now, if you are in a school system, right? And across the board, right? You're putting yourself in an environment as far as change if you buy into this Respect Day, because Respect Day has done that. Again, Heather?
You know, I have been a witness to Respect Day and how it plays out in different ways. I love the way that the Howard University students interpreted respect, and they did kind of scripts and skits around it, songs, and it was really amazing to see how this idea of respect can draw so much out of a person, and then how that energy can be shared from one person to another, where you can collaborate to facilitate that message going out. And that was just an awesome Respect Day too, when this was a group of college students, of course, Howard University students, on their spring break, and they decided to share this time with us and put all of these vignettes together, which they are on our EMIYTV YouTube channel. So feel free to go and look at some of those things, what we've done in schools. You can see Mumford High School's Respect Day, which was phenomenal. With our Respect Day, there is also a pledge, and I'm sure Calvin was about to get to that, and I just beat him to the punch. But that there is a pledge, and this pledge is not just for students. This pledge is for anyone to take. And it makes a difference when you take a pledge, when you make an oath to choose a behavior, choose a path, choose a routine, choose a direction for yourself and how you're going to respond. Is a really powerful pledge. And I think that, everybody should take the pledge for Respect Day. It's just saying that I can be different. I can show humility. I can show that I care for myself. I care for the environment. I care for others. And that it's just such a powerful pledge. I think it should be a part of what everybody does for Respect Day. And as we keep elevating Emmy National Respect Day to a observed day, a federal observed day, that is our next goal, to keep escalating it up so that it's something that everybody everywhere is aware of and can act on. So I think it's pretty powerful.
It is, and so to wrap this up, because again, I think we have to have respect of time.
Yeah, that too.
Right.
That too.
That was pretty good, though.
No CP.
Again, I just think what we're talking about, and we always are talking about family. We're, that's what it's called. Put your family first. We're always talking about people. But as we are wrapping this up, understand that respect is just such a huge piece to really preserving your life. It just goes into an understanding that if you don't respect what the doctor said, if you don't respect what your parents say, if you don't respect what the teacher is teaching, if you don't respect the person that's sacrificing his time for you, if you don't respect the money that you get, if you don't respect the relationship that you're in, right? If you don't respect, you see what I'm saying? So it's such an important piece to the very basics, because again, we teach 11 pillars, and the first thing we teach is respect. That's the first thing we teach is respect, right? They come into the mentoring program, we have to teach them that. So Dave, give a quick piece and to close us out, and then tell them where they can reach you at.
Well, one of the things I wanted to inject was about the mentoring program. We see boys are still just like the military basic. They come in, they're all over the place. They're rambunctious, they're disregarding, they're self-centered, they're doing their thing. But over the course of that 14 weeks, you start to see them begin to realize that isolation killed, but community builds. So they begin to work together. They begin to value each other. They begin to talk different. Everything begins to change because we teach them first self-respect and the respect of others. As the Bible would tell, love your neighbor, you love thyself. But we have to teach that. And again, being on that one accord makes a big difference. You can reach me at FMAM for Me About Men on Facebook, and you can reach me at drom7@yahoo.com.
Dr. Heather?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I'd like to close with just understanding that we, to think about respect on that number line. On the positive side of the number line, it's courtesy, it's consideration, it's humility. And if we use those as our basic human guidelines, I think that we have a better chance to keep respect alive and to share that respect by example. I can be reached at Heather@yourinspiredjourney.com. You can also reach me and visit my website at yourinspiredjourney.com. That's inspired with a D. And you can reach me by phone, please, at 313-759-7855.
So, you can call me Ray, or you can call me Jay, but you don't have to call me Johnson.
Alrighty.
Right. You can reach me at kelvintman.com. I'm booking for speaking engagements and events at this time. Again, the importance and the value of respect is always seen from a different perspective. We seem to think that disrespect is the norm. We've seen it in so many areas. We saw it during the political season. It's still happening. Multiple disrespectful comments and messages and salutes and things like that goes across the very fabric of America that has become acceptable based on supremacy or whatever you want to call it. Like, I'm not understanding how we got here, right? But I do understand part of it was the narrative that men were under siege and didn't have a voice, right? And a lot of men chose. It was almost, if you could close your eyes, it was almost men versus women during this whole process. I remember as soon as the election was over with, this guy gets on his thing and said, "Ha, now ladies, we own you. We own your..." No, you don't. And nobody is going to let you just do that. Women carry guns too. And in case people forget, they're using them. So keep your hands to yourself, right? And again, how we value women, you're not going to be able to put these women back into the sock. They're out. They're thoughtful. You have to respect their visions. You have to respect them. You have to respect their mind, their body. But they themselves have to do the same. Self-respect is such a huge piece. In today's culture, we seem to think that he is the cheater and she is not the cheater, when cheating is subject to everybody, right? We choose to make, some of this is on your DNA code. Your daddy was a cheater, so it's on your code. Your mama was a cheater, so it's on your code. We can't escape some of these things, right? It's just important. But what you can have, which is our mantra, is self-respect for yourself. We can have that. And then that sets an immediate boundary. We always talking about how somebody, if I approach this, she won't give me her number. She said no. Well, you've not been taught any boundaries, so you don't understand how to approach her. So you think that disrespect is such a norm. You can say, hey, B, what's your number? And because women and other people didn't have self-respect, some women turned around and gave their number, which then showed the person that was watching that she don't even respect herself, and he don't respect himself by reaching out to her that way. But that's what he's been taught, and that's what she's been accepting. For some of us, it's, hey, how you doing? Right? How's your day? And even then, sometimes she doesn't want to be because she hasn't been taught how to a man should approach her. And we're doing shows where the man got to come through and say, hey girl, you know, you so fine that I drove a car through a wall. That's, you know, all these little taglines, these pickup lines, right? Just to get you to have a conversation.
Did you hear that before? You just a tickle.
Right, because we think the pickup line is where it's at, right? I mean, you don't have to have a pickup line. Sometimes you just got to have it. You know what I mean? But that comes from self-respect. My point is, our mantra is respect me, respect you, respect we. If I respect myself, I then in turn will respect you, and together we can respect each other. It is such a powerful message for you to understand that. You should run over to EMIY Apparel, buy one, and give one to someone you love and respect, because it's just such an important message, as we're going to leave it there as we go through the process of launching our new store. With that being said, right, we also have the regular Emmy that you can give to a friend that might be getting bullied, that might not understand, or you just want to award your next athlete or the person you train with, right? Offer this encouragement to them. And at the end of this segment here today on the 10th, we're wrapping up, right? Because we're under a minute. Just know, if you respect your family, put them first. That's what we're all about. Put your family first. Everything, you know, and keep my family in prayers. But everything that we're dealing with right now, I can't tell you the utmost respect that is in my family that I've seen this past weekend, that has just amazed me, and it locked me into that I was raised right. Mm-hmm. You all have a great day. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Let's start the game over.